Hello, everyone. I hope that you're doing amazing wherever you are in the world. My name is Boom Shikha, and I welcome you to my channel. As always, I'm so grateful that you're listening, subscribing, and commenting. I really appreciate the support. In this one, I wanted to speak to you about a technique that I actually recently shared with my sister because this is a technique I've been using for a long time in order to deal with my anxiety, my worries, my doubts, my fears. And I've been using it kind of spontaneously without even thinking about it, unconsciously maybe even. And I do it regularly on a regular basis. I go out and do this, use this technique. But, kind of speaking to my sister about it made me realize how powerful this technique is because she's been using it for the last week and a half, 2 weeks, and she's found it so useful for her own anxiety and worries. And I thought, okay, I have to share this with all of you because maybe it'll be helpful to you as well. Or maybe not, but either way, I wanted to share it with you. And the technique I call is walk and talk. Walk and talk, basically. It's very simple. And so I'll share it with you how it goes. So, mostly what happens when we're worrying about something, and I've said this many times before, many times before, so you're probably sick and tired of it, but when we're worrying about something, when we're anxious about something, no matter who you are, basically what you're doing is you're creating a monster out of something that's actually not that big. Because what happens is our mind likes to play games with us, and it likes to create fear, and it likes to create situations that are, that causes us to suffer. And there's lots of different things our minds do that, like, you know what, you're not very smart. And so our mind's doing all these things, it's playing these games, and it's creating these absolute catastrophic situations where you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, if this happens, then this is going to happen, and everything's going to fall apart, and I'm going to be sitting on the street by myself in an apocalyptic world, and I'm gonna have no food, and I'm gonna have no money, and all that stuff. And so basically, what our mind does is it likes to create worst case scenarios. And maybe all that has happened is your cat died, right? Okay, maybe not. It's a big deal. Yes, your cat died. It's a pet. It's a family member. But because of your cat dying, you kind of went into the spiral of madness in your head, where all of a sudden you're destitute, bankrupt, on the street, and people are pointing and laughing at you, and you have nothing left anymore, like no friends, no family, nothing, right? And obviously this is a very big exaggeration, but usually this is what we do with our minds. We do when we're worrying is that, it might be a small thing. We dropped our phone, it didn't break, nothing happened, but all of a sudden in our heads we're like, oh my God, I'm so careless, that's the reason why that happened in my life, and I know this is the reason why this is going to happen, I'm going to lose everything, or I'm going to go here and I'm going to lose my relationship, or I'm going to go there and I'm going to die, or things like that. And so basically we create monsters out of our worries. They're baby little things, not really that much of a big deal, but in our heads we're like, oh my God, right? And so what we do, instead of actually being like, all right, let's just calm down, let's actually just think of this a little bit logically. This is not gonna happen, I'm just going crazy in my head. Instead of doing that, we kind of go into our head even further. We kind of spend all of this time in our head making even worse case scenarios, even worse and worse scenarios out of what's going on, or what might happen, or what could happen. And we're overthinking, we're overanalyzing, we're sitting in our heads, in our minds, in our imagination, and we're not able to go to sleep, we're not able to eat, we're not able to take a shower, we're not able to go for a walk, we're not able to do our work, we're not able to do anything because we're in our heads, and it has just taken us over. It's just become this huge monster that is just taking us over. We can't do anything about it, right? And you've already probably been in this situation many times in your life. I know I have, at least once a week. And so when this happens to me nowadays, because of this technique that I use, what I do is I cut the loop off. It is a terrible loop to get into. It's a terrible cycle. It's a vicious cycle to get into. Because what happens is that not only do we think about this particular worry that brought us into the cycle, but we start bringing all these other worries into the cycle as well. Oh my God, this is terrible, and that is also going on, and that's going on, and that's going. Eventually, we're just kind of under this huge avalanche of worries that takes us over completely, and we're like, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to get out of this. I am buried under worries. I'm buried under all of these terrible things that are happening. How can I ever escape? Right? You can't in your head. And so basically you go into this vicious cycle, this vicious loop, and you just kind of go spiral deeper and deeper into this black hole of worries and anxiety and fears and doubts until you're just not able to pull yourself out, right? It's just so deep and you're just so into it, right? And your mind loves it, actually. It's actually one of those things that our minds love to do because it's fun for us. Our minds love it, right? So, as I said, so walk and talk. So, what I do is I kind of cut the loop off. I cut the spiral off by changing my physiology, by going for a walk. So, I always try to go for a walk, no matter how cold it is outside, no matter how the weather is, even if it's raining, if it's thunderstorming, whatever it is. If it's too bad, then I'll just walk back and forth in my room. But it's better to change the scenario completely, to change the scene completely, to move out of the space where you're overthinking, to go into a completely different space. And the fresh air outside and nature and all that stuff is actually really good for changing physiology, changing the scene. So go for a walk. That's what I do. I just pick up my phone, I pick up my shoes, and I just go for a walk instantaneously. I'm like, all right, I'm not going to think about this anymore. Let's change the scene. And so I'll go for a walk, and what I'll do is I have the voice memos on my phone, and I'll have my headset on, or my headphones on, sorry, and I'll just walk and talk. So I'll just talk about what's going on, basically, really. And I'm talking to a friend, I'm pretending to talk to a friend, because a lot of the stuff you can't actually share with a friend, because a friend's gonna be, she or he's gonna be irritated by it, or won't understand it, or just won't have the time for it, or they just won't get it sometimes. And I found it so much easier to just talk to the phone, talk to the voice memo, talk to a friend, an imaginary friend. Sometimes I do talk to friends if I have the opportunity, but mostly I'll be like, let's do a walk and talk. And so I'll walk and I'll keep on talking about the things that worry me. And I've noticed that as soon as you start doing that, not only are you changing your physiology because you're moving, so that creates positive, emotions in you and positive hormones in you and all that stuff, endorphins, things like that, the fresh air, the sun. You've probably been indoors too long and in your head, so getting out just kind of changes your physiology. You're able to stand up straight, and your heart is open, and everything kind of changes in your body. Not only that, but actually just speaking those things out. In your head, it's a monster. As soon as you start speaking about it, it becomes this tiny little baby thing that doesn't really matter that much. And really, this has happened to me over and over and over again. I notice that every single time I go for a walk and talk, I might be thinking about the worst thing possible in the world. My life is completely going to go into shambles in my head. And then I go out and I do a walk and talk. I talk about it. I do a voice memo. I'm like, this is what's going on, this and this and this. All of a sudden, just talking about it, venting about it, getting it out, putting it down on paper, basically, I guess. It's kind of like a journaling method, but a little bit extra. All of a sudden, it's not as terrible as I imagined, right? And a lot of times what happens to me, which I love, is that all of a sudden my intuition pipes up and tells me, oh, right, this is what's supposed to happen. And so my intuition wasn't able to get through to me because my mind was talking so loudly, right? It was so loud in my head that my intuition couldn't get to me. But all of a sudden I'm walking and talking and looking at the fresh air, the flowers, the beauty of the world, and all of a sudden I'm talking and everything doesn't seem as bad as it was a few moments ago. And then my intuition all of a sudden is able to get through to me through all the noise. It's supposed to get through to me. It is able to get to me and able to tell me, this is the scenario that you're working with and this is the solution. And a lot of times I end up finding a very quick and easy, simple solution to what I was worrying about, or realizing that actually there's nothing to worry about because I was making a big deal out of nothing. And so I really do recommend that you try this technique out a few times, at least 4 or 5 times in the next few days. Whenever something big comes up like this, when you're sitting in your head, you're sitting in your room, in your head, in your imagination, not able to get out of the spiral of madness, take the opportunity to take a few moments. It doesn't have to be long. Usually it takes only 5 to 10 minutes and instantaneously I bounce up. And so just take a few moments, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, go for a walk somewhere outside of the vicinity of where you were thinking. Quick walk. It doesn't have to be anything major. You don't have to run. You don't have to jog. You just go for a quick, easy pace, like peaceful walk, like just peaceful, easy pace, and walk and talk, walk and talk. And eventually you'll notice that, right, okay, I was making a big deal out of something that wasn't. I can actually relax about it and actually find a solution to it. And all of it will happen very quickly. And then you can come back to your desk or come back to your room and feel 100 times better, or at least that's been the case for me. Let me know if you do end up using this technique, or if you've already used it, or you already do use it. That would be amazing if you do already use it, and you call it something else, I'm sure. Let me know if you've used it, or you're going to use it, or you've used it, and how you like it, how it's helped you, and all that. I'd love to hear your stories, your testimonials. Really excited to hear from you. Again, thank you so much for being on my channel. I really appreciate your support. And I shall see you in the next one. Bye for now.